Term elections, and the ad blitz has officially begun.
Keith Schuler wants to represent us in Congress. Records show that before he filed to run, he didn't even bother to vote in at least 6 congressional elections. Schuler just moved back here in 2003. The reports prove that most of his individual contributions come from people who don't even live in North Carolina.
Gasoline prices are at record levels, and middle-class families are feeling the pain. But Heather Wilson took almost $400,000 from the oil and gas industry.
Joe Courtney has openly criticized the recent tax cuts, criticized cutting your income tax, relieving the marriage penalty, doubling the child credit, criticized incentives for retirement savings, phasing out the death tax, and providing incentives for small business.
When she gets her way, avoid the highway. Thelma Drake. She's already taken $20,000 in contributions from big oil and gas. Drake voted against cracking down on price gouging 3 times. And Drake voted for billions in tax breaks for the oil and gas industry.
Joining us now, conservative syndicated columnist Betsy Hart, featured columnist for The Hill, A.B. Stoddard, the author of Enough, NPR national correspondent, Fox News contributor Juan Williams. Juan, I love the voice they use. This person is Satan. The voice they use in all these things.
The voice of God.
It's like, you have Santorum is running an ad with actors portraying men who are under investigation who it claims gave money to Casey, his opponent. It turns out none of them did, but 2 actually gave money to Santorum. That's one of the dirtiest ads running in this campaign.
Well, it's all about, at this point, and this is what Tom Reynolds, the chairman of the Republican National Congressional Committee, has said. They've been doing research since '05, and it comes down to attacks on the personal backgrounds of these candidates. It's not about the war in Iraq.
Right.
It's not about any of the national issues, national intelligence estimate. It comes down, can you disparage your opponent locally and just muddy them up?
Betsy, haven't people had enough of this stuff? This is why the ratings of Congress are at an all-time low. People don't like politicians. They're under 50% approval ratings. Isn't this the reason?
Well, Juan and Alan, the fact is we have these attack ads because guess what? They work. If they didn't work,
so you approve
they would be gone tomorrow. Well, I'm not necessarily approving of them. What I'm saying is when you get into this business, guys, put your big boy underwear on because that's what it's going to take to be able to just. But you know what, Alan? I really don't worry about that so much because we have the internet. We have all kinds of ways to get at the truth. Put it out. Alan, I'm not for a minute suggesting I'm going to run for political office or I'd be comfortable running one of these campaigns. I don't like it. But guess what? We remember how this was supposed to be all gotten rid of with campaign finance reform. It didn't work. The reason it didn't work is because Washington is such a big prize. It's so powerful. It's so wealthy. For Republicans and Democrats, there's so much power to be had there. People will lie. They will do what it takes to get there, and they'll rationalize it along the way. What I'm saying is this is a symptom of a bigger problem. The problem is the corruption and the power in Washington to begin with.
Steve Kagan, a doctor and Democrat running for Congress in Wisconsin, is being attacked for suing patients who wouldn't pay their bills. How dare he actually try to collect people who owe money?
Well, I mean, look, Betsy's right. These ads define people, and they work, and it might not be pleasant, but this is a nasty business. The stakes are so huge next month. The Republicans have had power for 12 years. They want to hold on to it desperately, and the Democrats, if they don't take it back this time, the voters might never buy what they're selling. And this is, there's just nothing. They're going to stop at nothing.
Juan, I'll tell you one thing that just makes me angry. And it's happening every year, at every election year, and it's used by the Democrats, and that's the race card. Let me give you 3 quick examples. 1998, Missouri Democratic Party, if you elect Republicans, black churches will burn. We had the Byrd ad as another one. Republicans don't want to count you in the census if you're an African American. Al Gore said that. And Howard Dean, you think Republicans can get this many people in a room, African Americans, only if the wait staff is here? I think they're now doing it against Senator Allen.
Why do you say that?
Because there's no proof that he's been a governor, he's been a senator, and he's been a congressman. It doesn't seem odd to you, 42 days out of an election, they found one guy that said, oh, he said this in the 1970s or whenever?
Well, look, Sean, this starts way back with him, with wearing Confederate flag pins, having Confederate flags in his office.
But that doesn't mean
he damaged him. No, it doesn't mean anything necessarily, but he damaged himself with the macaca comment and then his strong and visceral reaction to questions about his Jewish heritage.
You know, and I know.
And now this starts, when Larry Sabato, who's been on this show, you know Larry. I don't think Larry is going to put himself in danger as a political consultant.
Larry pulled back from his statement, number one, that he was making a plan on another TV show.
Larry said he didn't hear it himself. But he said that he has people that he knows and people that he knew who have told him this all along. Now, I think the best argument for you is 35 years later, it's kind of late.
I find, I know you want to weigh in, Betsy. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, it's just that the larger issue to me that's interesting is how during the Swift vote veteran, remember that supposedly smear campaign, which is what the Democrats told us at the time, and the media was all over that. This is a smear campaign against John Kerry because these charges are uncorroborated. I actually kind of agreed with them. But now, all of a sudden, this isn't a smear campaign. We have to take this seriously. And there's a whole different gravitas, to use an old word,
Let me bring up one other point.
Because he's Republican.
Well, I want to ask you this one. We know that the head of the Senate for the Democrats for a long time was a former Klansman. Yeah. A couple of years ago on Fox News Sunday, used the N-word.
He did.
And Allen's opponent said just yesterday, I don't think there's anyone who grew up around the South that hasn't had that word pass through their lips at one time or another in their life. Is that an admission that he's used that word? And is that not an insult to people in the South? I think it is.
Well, no, he said, this is Jim Webb, and what Webb said, he's used it in a book that he's written.
That's right.
And he said that people occasionally will use the word, but he said he never used it in a way that was a slur or intended to demean anyone. That's different than the charges that are being
that sounds like he's really hedging his bets in my mind.
No, I don't think it's... Look, I'm telling you, this is a very tricky matter, but I do think this. Yeah. At some point, the weight of the testimony begins to add up, and his own problems damage the campaign. There's no question. You talk to Republican strategists or Democratic strategists, Sean, they'll tell you this race should not be this close. It should have been a cakewalk for Allen.
Well, A.B., I guess what stinks to high heaven here in my mind, I know George Allen. I have a hard time believing that he did this, and it seems that at this late hour, after all these years in office, this does not smell right, and the history shows that Democrats do this every election. So my doubts are well-founded.
At this late stage of the game, unfortunately, it doesn't matter if it's fair or unfair. The net effect of these three damaging episodes is that he has now found himself in a debate. It's a character referendum instead of a re-election campaign where he gets to talk about public policy. He's not in control of the debate. He's running out of time, and he has a lot of new voters in Northern Virginia, particularly, that don't know him as Governor Allen. A lot of them are immigrants, a lot of young voters that are watching the Macaca video on YouTube, and I think this is a terrible position to be in 4 weeks out.
We got to run. We thank you. Betsy, we thank you as well. Juan, thank you. And coming up next, professors at Vanderbilt University are blaming 9/11 on America, and notable 9/11 conspiracy theorists have jumped to their defense. And later, with police claiming he attempted suicide, Terrell Owens is singing a different tune. We'll go to Dallas for the latest. Stay with us.